I'm Jenny Smith.
And I'm Bruce Smith, her husband.
Well, we're from Aberdeen, Scotland, and we have come here to teach Bible study and to communicate the truth of the gospel.
Yeah, back in Aberdeen, we've been married for 43 years. We've got 3 grown-up children, 2 boys and a girl, and we've got 7 grandchildren. 2 of our sons and 4 of the grandchildren live in Aberdeen, and our daughter and 3 of the grandchildren live in Houston.
We have had a really good impression since we came to Paris of French people generally. They've been very friendly and very welcoming, and we have found that there is more of an openness to spiritual matters than people in Scotland, which surprised us, because Scotland last century was known as Bible-loving Scotland, but that's no longer the case. But we feel people in France are more spiritually aware.
Yeah, I think we were pleasantly surprised that there were a number of active English-speaking churches here, as well as some French evangelical churches. Met some great Christian people here. And I think as well, we sort of, back home, French have got a little bit of a reputation of being a little, difficult to get to know, a little bit rude even perhaps, and we've not found that at all. Found that French people have been really very nice, very friendly. We've got to know a lot of them just around here, the shopkeepers, the butcher, the fish merchants, and they're all very friendly.
I think we have tried to speak French very badly, but I think if you have a little bit of French language, French people warm to you more readily.
Yeah.
I think they will not speak English to you. They expect you to be able to speak some French.
Yeah, I think it's the French people have been very, as I say, very nice, but there's an interesting contrast, because in speaking to you and speaking to each other, they're extremely polite. You meet someone on the stairs or outside the lift, you've got to go through this whole sort of kind of business of saying hello, how are you, how's it going, and then have a good day. And yet, if it's getting on a bus or a metro, they'll push you out of the way and knock you over. So it's a strange sort of mixture between the two.
I think pray very hard before coming to Paris. It's the city of light, but there's a lot of darkness in this city, as with every other city. And I would encourage anyone thinking of coming on mission to at least learn a few basics of French, how to greet people, how to encourage people, and that helps if you can speak a little bit of French.
I think that's right. I mean, France is a very, very ancient country. The French are a very sort of old people. They've got wonderful traditions. They're very proud of their traditions and their history, very proud of their language. So if you come and respect all of that. And we've been amazed at how many people here in restaurants and everywhere speak English. But I think that they really appreciate it, and it really makes for warm relations if you're able to say a few words in in French. And very often we'll start a conversation with some pretty poor French, and they'll quite quickly start to speak English or help you with it. But if you don't make that effort, if you just assume,
they sort of close off.
Yeah. If you don't make that effort, then they can be difficult. I mean, I've seen waiters in the restaurants around here that I know quite well and who speak better English than I speak, and extremely friendly when we go, and I still say bonjour, ça va, but as a sort of English or American people come in and just automatically assume that they'll speak English, and that same waiter who speaks fluent English to me will refuse to speak a word of English to them because they're assuming that that's what it is. So it's very important to come and respect the culture and the language. And the other thing is, kind of come and expect multicultural. People know Paris is an international city, and there are a lot of people here from all over the world, a lot of very bright people, a lot of very clever people, students who are studying, young professionals. Come and don't imagine that you're just going to be working with and mixing with French people. You've got to be prepared to come and
it's a multicultural
it's a multicultural society, and you need to do that.
There's a great spiritual need in France. The main religion in France has forever been Roman Catholicism, and many people that you speak to will be third or fourth or fifth generation Roman Catholics, and the Bible is not taught to Roman Catholics, and they are not encouraged to read the Bible for themselves. The children in Catholic schools are taught catechism, but they're not taught any Bible knowledge. And so these people are biblically illiterate, and there's much tradition and culture in the Catholic Church, but there's no real truth, and people need the truth.
And I think that if people are thinking about feeling that God's calling them to come to France as in some form of outreach, perhaps to come here and work or study as a way of working with and among French people, I would say come, because I think there's a real sense that God's Spirit is beginning to be at work in France. I think spiritually France has been dead, as Jenny says, for a very long time. But there is a real sense that there's a growing openness to God's Word and to the Gospel here. France as a nation is in a pretty bad way, financially and everything else. I mean, huge uprisings on the streets against same-sex marriage. Not necessarily led by Christian principles, but just by a sense of, we've lost all boundaries, it's all empty, we need something. And I've been speaking to a few of my friends who are involved in missionary organizations, quite big ones, been working in France, all over France for lots of years. And they are saying to me that in this last year or two, they have seen an openness and a hunger for God's Word, and a willingness to talk about spiritual things like they've not seen in 25 years. So, it's not for us to say where God's Spirit's going to work, but there seems to be signs that there is some sort of work of the Spirit going on in France. And if God's calling you, if you feel God's calling you to be part of that, then come, because there's nothing more exciting than being where God's at work.